If you've ever wanted to become a millionaire on a low salary, here are 6 proven steps to build wealth without a high income. First, in the book The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel says true wealth is actually the money you have not spent. For every 5% of extra income that you save, you can retire multiple years earlier. For instance, if you earn the median income of $65K per year and you can save 10% or $6,500, you can be financially free in 51.4 years. But if you can just save 5% more at 15%, you can be financially free in 42.8 years. For just that 5% more effort, you can shave off more than 8 years that you need to work. The problem is, nowadays, many of us can buy things on credit and pay for them in monthly installments. The 2 biggest areas being a house and a car. But if most of your paycheck goes to your housing and car expenses, how are you going to have money left over to save? In 2024, the average American carries $22,713 of debt, but that includes the super wealthy and those without money. So how do you know if you have too much debt? An easy way to determine this is if you add up all your debt payments, like your auto loan payments, your mortgage, student loans, minimum credit card payments, and then you divide that total amount by your monthly gross income. That would be your debt to income ratio. Basically, how much of your monthly gross income is reserved for your monthly debt payments. A good rule of thumb is to keep your debt to income ratio under 50%. If your debt to income ratio is on the higher end, then that's not the greatest sign. But the quickest way to get rid of all your debt is with the avalanche method. Here's how it works. First, decide how much money you can budget to pay off your debt every single month. It could be $50, $100, or $1,000. Second, open up Google Sheets and list out all your balances and the minimum payments you need to make for each one. Third, order each debt amount from the highest to lowest by interest rates. So if you currently have a $1,000 credit card balance with a 20% interest rate, a $17,000 car loan with an 8% interest rate, and a $2,800 credit card balance with a 10% interest rate, then what you want to do is first, you want to make all minimum payments on all your balances to avoid penalties. And if you have any money left over, you want to put it towards the balance with the highest interest rate. In this example, you would put your leftover money towards the credit card balance with the $1,000 balance. Once that balance is paid off, you move on to the next balance with the next highest interest rate, the $2,800 credit card balance, and then you just rinse and repeat. Next, before we can make any meaningful changes to your finances, you need to first know where you stand. Here's a table of the median net worth in the US by age. The median net worth for someone in their 20s is $6,980, and in their 30s, it's $34,691. A good financial goal for someone who has a low salary is to get as close to this median number for your age group as possible, because the amount of money you save by your current age is key to determining whether you're on track to be a millionaire or not. So assuming you start with $0 in savings, if you're 20, you'll need to save $204 per month to retire a millionaire by 65. If you start saving at 25, you need to save $298 per month. At 30, you need to save $443 per month. At 40, $1,030 per month. At 50, $2,795 per month. And at 60, $13,500 per month. Like most things in life, the earlier you start, the easier it is thanks to compound interest. Think of your money like a snowball. You roll it down a hill by investing money. And as it rolls, it picks up more snow, which is your compound interest. The bigger your snowball gets, the more snow it collects, and therefore, the more compound interest you earn. But before you invest in anything, you need to first save money. So for me, I found that the most effective way to save money is with this thing called financial automation. Studies show that this helps you easily save 3.8 times more money because everything is on autopilot and you don't have to think about it anymore. It's the same strategy that I've been using for years and has allowed me to finally control my money instead of it controlling me. If automating your finances sound interesting to you, I'm running a free challenge on July 1st where I'll show you step by step how to automate your money. Anyone can join, but space is limited, so secure your spot today. I'll leave the link in the description, and again, it's completely free, and you can win some great prizes. But no one becomes a millionaire from just increasing their savings and income. Nearly all of them adopted the chess and rice strategy, which goes like this. Thousands of years ago, there was an emperor who learned about the game of chess and was so impressed by it that he offered the game's inventor one wish, anything he wanted. The inventor humbly said that he just wanted rice. 1 grain of rice on the first square of the chessboard, then 2 grains on a second, 4 on the third, and so on, doubling each time all the way through to the 64th black and white square. The emperor almost immediately agreed, laughing, thinking that this was such a silly and simple request. But this simple promise led to the collapse of his entire empire. By the 30th square alone, the emperor's debt compounded to over 1 billion grains of rice. By the time it reached the 64th square, the emperor owed over 18 quintillion, with a Q, grains of rice, bankrupting the entire kingdom. And that's exactly how 99% of Warren Buffett's wealth was earned after his 50th birthday, according to the book Psychology of Money. When the book was written, Buffett's wealth was $84.5 billion. But $84.2 billion was achieved after his 50th birthday, and it's because of the magic of compound interest, which is what you need to take advantage of. Put your money to work in the stock market so it can compound and grow over time. So every 2 weeks, after you get your paycheck, whatever you have left over after savings, bills, expenses, invest it. For instance, if you invest $10,000 in year 1 and get an average of 10% return on it with the S&P 500, you'd earn an additional $1,000. In year 2, you'd earn $1,100. Year 3, $1,210. Just like the chess and rice, over time you earn interest on the money you originally saved, plus the interest you received for that original amount. In 3 years, you've earned an additional $3,310 without lifting a finger. If we graph this over the next few decades, we get an exponential growth curve, which is why Albert Einstein said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. But if you're on the fence about investing in stocks because they're volatile, a great alternative is bonds, which are more stable and reliable. Thanks to high interest rates, bonds can yield anywhere from 5% to 25% or even higher, depending on your risk tolerance. That's why I'm excited to talk about today's sponsor, Silo. Silo's mission is to have companies and the government pay you by simplifying the bond investing process and making it more transparent. It's a platform where you can invest in corporate bonds from over 2,000 top companies like Apple, Google, and Meta, as well as government securities like treasury bills and notes. And they just charge $1 per bond. I personally invest in 3-year treasury notes with around 5% yield, which means I'm locked into that rate for 3 years, even if the Fed decides to cut interest rates. And the cool part is, government bonds are considered risk-free since they're backed by the US federal government. It's easy to sign up and start investing in bonds. Check out the link below. Clicking that link supports the channel, but more importantly, the first 1,000 people to deposit $3,000 using that link will get the first 3 months commission-free, and one of you will get a free Apple bond worth $1,000. Next, in the book Rich Habits, Tom Corley discovered that more than 75% of millionaires came from a poor background and were self-made. But there is one thing he noticed that all millionaires have in common, and the IRS also verified this fact, and it's that none of them were overly dependent on their job's paycheck. I remember in my early 20s, I was so dependent on my paycheck every 2 weeks. I relied on it heavily to pay off my debt, my bills, and just living expenses in New York City. And I knew in the back of my head that if I ever lost this job, everything in my life would completely change. And it was at this moment when I realized just how vulnerable I really was. Nearly every single millionaire has multiple income streams, even if they have a full-time job. The truth is, while your job might provide you with a sense of security, you never know when that's gonna end. In 2023, over 263,000 tech workers lost their jobs, and that number is only increasing. But having multiple streams of income isn't just about a sense of safety. If your monthly expenses is $2,000, you could try and live more frugally, maybe reduce your spending to $1,400. But regardless, there will always be a limit to how little you can live off of. Even eating nothing but beans and rice requires money. But if you manage to earn just a little bit more, even $10, $20, $50, $100 a week more, your cash flow will increase substantially. A really good way to figure out what kind of side hustle you can start is to think about all the knowledge and all the experience you have that is greater than the average person. So if you're above average at playing the piano, cooking pineapple pizza, or fixing things around the house, you can find someone who has an average or below average knowledge skill set in that area and are willing to pay you to teach them that skill. But the most important step is getting disciplined with tracking your cash flow, specifically knowing how much money is coming in versus going out. Just like exercising, if you start tracking how much weight you're lifting or miles you're running, it becomes a lot easier for you to get stronger and faster. The same goes with finances. The problem is, many people feel that when their bank balance is is really low or their net worth is close to zero, there's no point in trying to track or save their money. But this is the wrong mindset to have, especially when you're trying to grow your wealth. Studies show that if you don't have a lot of money to start with, every single dollar matters so much more up until $100,000. Because once you have $100,000, your wealth will explode. For instance, if you save $10,000 every year with a 7% average yearly return, going from $0 to $100 will take you 7.84 years. However, going from $100,000 to $200 will only take 5.1 years, meaning it's 35% faster to make your second $100,000 than the first. And it gets even better. If we go from $200,000 to $300,000, it only takes 3.78 years. $400,000 to $500,000 only takes 2.5 years, and going from $900,000 to $1 million will only take you 1.35 years. This means that when you don't have a lot of money, every single dollar that you don't track or just spend recklessly will hurt your chances at reaching $1 million as quickly as possible. Which leads me to something that you've got to start accepting, and it's that even if you're trying your hardest to be better with money, sometimes you might still feel like you're not doing it enough. And that might be because you don't know the 10 things you should never waste money on. Click here to learn the 10 things you need to stop buying immediately.